Have you ever watched an old black and white movie and seen a star who seemed perfect? They wore beautiful clothes, flashed big smiles, and lived in giant houses. But sometimes, behind the shiny screen, famous people carried sad secrets. Long ago, doctors used a rough treatment called shock therapy. They sent electric currents through a person's brain to try to calm deep sadness or fear. It was painful and confusing. Many movie stars were sent to quiet hospitals and given this treatment without the public knowing. Today, we call this a dark chapter in Hollywood history. Let's look at 10 Golden Age actors who secretly suffered through it. Their stories are heavy, but important to remember. Frances Farmer. Frances Farmer was a brave, smart actress who refused to obey Hollywood bosses. She spoke her mind, read interesting books, and wanted to be treated like a real person. But the studios hated her honest attitude. They labeled her difficult and spread false rumors. In the 1940s, she was sent to a state hospital against her will. There, doctors tied her down and gave her shock therapy again and again. They also used freezing ice baths that left her shaking and exhausted. The electricity erased many of her memories. She forgot movie lines, close friends, and even recognized her own mother only with difficulty. Later, she wrote about her suffering. She said the shocks felt like a white-hot knife cutting through her thoughts. The hospital staff followed strict rules from the time, believing harsh treatments were the only way to help restless patients. Frances fought back in the only way she could, keeping a small notebook hidden under her mattress. When she finally left the gates, the movie world had moved on, but she kept writing and speaking quietly about patient rights. Only years later did historians learn the truth. She was not crazy. She was just a rebel who refused to be controlled. Her story reminds us that being different is never a sickness. Jean Tierney. She had one of the most beautiful faces in Hollywood. You can see her in the classic film Laura, where she plays a mysterious woman with a quiet grace. But behind that pretty smile, Jean carried a heavy weight. Her daughter, born in 1943, was born with serious health challenges, including blindness and deafness. Doctors later learned a sick fan had accidentally passed measles to Jean while she was pregnant. The illness hurt the baby, and Jean felt terrible guilt. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping, and cried quietly for months. This deep sadness is called clinical depression. Doctors placed her in a private care home and gave her shock therapy. They kept it very secret so newspapers would not print the story. The shocks worked a little. She felt slightly less heavy, but they also blurred happy moments with her husband. Her family stayed close, reading letters and playing soft music to help her rest. Years later, she wrote, "I lost a piece of my soul." She also had to live with the fact that the fan who made her sick never offered an apology. Even during her hardest days, she never stopped loving her daughter, visiting her often and bringing small handmade gifts. Jean's story teaches us that guilt can feel as heavy as any illness. Vivien Leigh. She played the fiery Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Millions of people cheered for her strong spirit and quick wit. But Vivien had a secret health struggle called bipolar disorder. Some days she felt wildly energetic, talked very fast, and could not sit still. Other days she could not get out of bed and felt completely drained. She also coughed from a serious lung disease that weakened her body. Doctors of the time said shock therapy would balance her shifting moods. They gave her many sessions spread across 10 long years. Each time, she lost tiny pieces of her memory. She forgot scenes from her own famous movies. She forgot quiet conversations with her husband, actor Laurence Olivier. But here is the saddest part. The shocks did not cure her. They only gave her a few calm weeks before the emotional storms returned. She often took long walks near the ocean to clear her head, hoping the fresh air would steady her thoughts. Friends noticed she always carried a small journal to track her good days, hoping to find a pattern. Still, she kept acting. She won 2 Oscars while secretly battling her health. Once she said, "I am not crazy, I just feel things too deeply." Vivian died at age 53. Her story shows that even screen superheroes can feel fragile inside. Judy Garland. You know her as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. She sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow in a clear, bell-like voice. But her real life was much harder than a fairy tale. As a little girl, studio bosses made her work nearly 18 hours a day. They handed her pills to stay awake and different pills to force her to sleep. By the time she was a teenager, she was exhausted, nervous, and deeply scared. As an adult, her hands often shook, she forgot her lines on set, and she arrived late to rehearsals. Instead of giving her rest and support, the movie studio sent her to a private doctor who used shock therapy. They did it late at night so fans would never find out. Judy said the shocks felt like a strong mule kicking her head. They did this at least 5 times. Each time she lost a little more of her famous singing voice and her bright confidence. She often drank warm tea backstage to calm her nerves before stepping onto bright stages. Fans sent thousands of supportive letters, and she kept the sweetest ones in a wooden box by her bed. She died at 47 from taking too much medicine. Her daughter, Liza Minnelli, later said, "My mother was hurt by people who called themselves helpers." Judy's story is a strong warning. Child stars need protection and gentle care, not harsh punishment. Errol Flynn. He played Robin Hood and other daring action heroes. On screen, he was handsome, brave, and full of clever jokes. Off-screen, his life was messy and unpredictable. Errol drank too much, got into loud arguments, and sometimes struggled to tell the truth. Some of this came from a difficult childhood where he faced fear and strict rules at home. In the 1940s, 2 young women made serious claims against him. Even though a court cleared his name, the stress broke his peace of mind. He started having blackouts, dizzy spells, and heard strange sounds in quiet rooms. Doctors gave him shock therapy to try and reset his busy brain. It did not work the way they hoped. Instead, it made his memory much worse. He forgot movie scripts he had studied for weeks. He even forgot his own daughter's birthday. He loved sailing on quiet boats to escape the loud city life, hoping the water would wash away his worries. He also kept a small sketchbook where he drew pictures of calm forests and open fields. Later in life, he wrote a book and admitted, "The shocks stole my past." He died at 50 with a tired body and a scattered mind. Errol's story reminds us that movie heroes are played by real humans who bleed and break just like everyone else. Marilyn Monroe, the blonde movie star with the flowing white dress over a subway grate. Marilyn Monroe seemed to glow with pure happiness in every photo. But inside, she was often terrified and lonely. She grew up bouncing between foster homes and group houses. Her mother struggled with serious mental health issues, which left Marilyn without a steady family. As an adult, she could not sleep without medicine. She often forgot her movie lines and froze on bright sets. Directors yelled at her for slowing down filming. Instead of showing kindness, the studio sent her to a hospital for shock therapy. This happened at least 3 times. Witnesses said she cried out during the treatment. When she woke up, she felt completely lost and did not know which room she was in. She kept a small velvet notebook where she wrote down poems and gentle thoughts about kindness. She told a close friend, "They put electricity in my head. I felt my memories drain away like rain down a street. The shocks never fixed her sadness, they only added more fear." She died alone at 36. Some think it was an accident. Others wonder about darker reasons. But everyone agrees Hollywood failed to protect her. Her story teaches us that fame never equals true happiness. Rita Hayworth. She was called the love goddess of the 1940s. Fans adored her shiny red hair and smooth dancing in movies like Gilda. But Rita was quietly fighting a disease no one understood back then, early onset Alzheimer's. This brain illness slowly steals memory and clear thinking over time. Sadly, doctors in the 1960s guessed wrong about her symptoms. They thought she had depression or another mental struggle. So they gave her shock therapy many times. The electricity actually made her condition worse. It damaged brain cells that were already tired and sick. She soon forgot her own daughter's names. She forgot the dance steps she had practiced for years. Her dance teacher kept old rehearsal tapes and played them softly in her room, hoping familiar music would spark a smile. In her final years, she needed help with simple tasks like eating meals and walking safely. Family members sat with her for hours, holding her hands and speaking in calm, steady voices. She died at 68, lost inside her own mind. Later, medical experts studied her case and agreed shock therapy should never have been used on her. Rita's story is a sad lesson about wrong medicine. It shows why careful testing matters and why listening closely to patients is always the best choice. Robert Mitchum. He played tough cowboys and quiet detectives. He had sleepy eyes and a deep, steady voice that made him instantly recognizable. Robert grew up very poor and faced many hard times early on. His father passed away when he was only 2 years old. As a boy, he lived with a very strict grandmother who rarely showed affection. He ran away from home many times and even spent months on a work crew for riding trains without a ticket. As an adult, he suffered from terrible nightmares and sudden fits of anger. Doctors believed shock therapy would calm his restless thoughts. They treated him secretly in a Los Angeles hospital. Robert later described the feeling like a loud bomb going off inside your skull. Your teeth slam together. You smell something burning in the air. He found comfort in writing simple poems and fixing old wooden chairs in his backyard. After the shocks, he forgot large parts of his difficult childhood. Strangely, he said that was helpful because those early years were so painful. He kept acting and grew even more popular. But his family noticed he was never truly relaxed. He just learned to hide his quiet hurt. Robert lived to be 79. His story shows that people can survive harsh treatments but still carry invisible scars. Joan Crawford. She was the strong, powerful star of Mildred Pierce. On screen, she played determined women who never gave up. Off screen, she was just as forceful, but also deeply worried. Joan grew up in a broken home where her stepfather may have been unkind. As a famous actress, she controlled everything, her outfits, her houses, and every movie role she accepted. But inside, she often felt empty and alone. In her late 50s, after her fourth husband passed away, Joan fell into a deep pit of fear and sleepless nights. Doctors gave her shock therapy in total secrecy. Her adopted daughter later wrote a famous book about their difficult home life. In it, she claimed the treatments made Joan act colder and stricter. Joan forgot family birthdays. She seemed to forget that she had been harsh with her children. She kept a locked drawer filled with old stage costumes, folding them carefully every Sunday afternoon. The shocks did not heal her heart, they only pushed away her feelings of regret. Joan died quietly in her apartment. No relatives attended her final public event. Her story makes us ask, did the treatments change a difficult woman into someone even harsher? Or was the pain already there? We may never know for sure. Her life reminds us that untreated sadness can turn into sharp edges. Bing Crosby. He was the cheerful, smiling singer of White Christmas. "I'm dreaming of a white Christmas," he sang in a warm, steady voice. Millions of families gathered around radios to listen to him. But his sons later shared a very different picture of life at home. Behind closed doors, Bing had a sharp temper. He used belts to punish his children and would shout for long periods. He also carried deep sadness that he carefully hid from cameras and fans. Doctors gave him shock therapy to try and control his anger and heavy moods. They did this in the 1950s and 60s, always behind closed doors. The shocks did not soften his temper. They only made him forget why he felt upset in the first place. He loved tending to his garden, planting bright flowers and watching them grow slowly through the seasons. One of his sons, Gary, wrote, "My father went through painful treatments, but he never apologized to us for the hurt he caused." Bing died on a quiet golf course in 1977, smiling until his final moments. The public never guessed his private struggles. Bing's story teaches us that some people suffer in silence and accidentally pass that hurt to others. A bright smile on television is not always a peaceful smile at home. These stars brought joy to millions, but behind the curtain they felt pain and fear. Shock therapy was used like a quick fix, not a gentle cure. Today, doctors almost never use old-fashioned electric treatments. Now we have counseling, safer medicines, and open conversations. The lesson is simple. Even famous people can carry heavy secrets. And just because someone smiles on a screen doesn't mean they are okay in real life. So be kind to everyone you meet. You never know what quiet battle they are fighting. These old Hollywood icons teach us that fame does not protect you from hurt, but their stories finally deserve to be heard. Remember them not just for their famous roles, but for their quiet courage to keep going.